This is Wife Material Podcast, episode 22, Looking and Acting Like a Wife. So, there's certain behavior traits, things that it's important to know when it comes to being a wife. So you got to remember that you as a wife, you represent your husband as much as he represents you, right? He'll do his best, right, to present himself off as, somebody important, because he's more likely doing important things, of course. So he'll do his best to make himself look good, and those he's with, his friends and family, as well as his wife and kids. So the same goes for you. It's important for you to make sure your man looks good, to make sure you look good, to make sure the kids look good, that the family looks good. That's important, especially if your husband, is a man with clout, a high value man, not just a man with a lot of money, but a man who, is very well known in the world. So it's important for you to be able to play the part, right? To be able to be a wife, right? So that's why looking like a wife, acting like a wife is important. You can't just wake up, put whatever random thing you want to put on, and then there you go, you're a wife. No. There's a look to being a wife. There's a behavior to being a wife. So let's go run down a small list of things that we're going to be talking about in this podcast. So number one, dresses, having dresses, wearing dresses, the willingness to wear dresses. Two, casual clothing, jeans, sweatpants, pajamas, whatever, you feel comfortable with. You're not always going to wear dresses, so you're going to need some casual clothing, right? You're not going to wear a dress to the beach, right? So you're going to need a bikini, right? That kind of stuff. Three, lingerie, obviously, right? Got to keep your man happy. Four, costumes. That's more of my personal preference, but guys out there like it as well, willingness to wear different outfits, even, wigs and stuff like that, accessories that make you look different than you normally would look, which makes it seem like you're another woman, which is very helpful to maintain a relationship. Five, fitness, fitness clothes, yoga pants and sports bra, stuff like that, fitness clothes. You should be exercising, being fit, being healthy. So should your husband, and your kids should also be taught to be healthy. So fitness clothes should be a regular part of your wardrobe. Then so that's the looking part, right? The what you wear. Of course, having whether you wear makeup or not, your hair, whatever. All of those stuff are just extra stuff. I'm not going into an in-depth on this. I'm just pointing out some stuff that it's important, at least clothing wise and behavior wise, that's important for a wife. Obviously, if you're a beautiful woman, you're a beautiful woman. Makeup is not necessary, but if you want to teach their own. Obviously, you'll want to do something with your hair. You're not just going to let your hair look a mess for no reason, right? 6, being helpful. 7, caring. 8, understanding or being able to understand things. 9, leadership, the ability to lead if need be. 10, being romantic, aka sexy. So let's start with the first one. Dresses. No club dresses like, what you wear to the club. Obviously, that's single wardrobe. That's what you will be wearing if you were single. You'd be wearing, whatever outfits or dresses or whatever you wear when you're single. But when you're a wife, you have no need for your single clothing no more. So obviously, you will be getting rid of those things and replace them with, not being single clothing. Like you'll wear dresses that either match your husband's wardrobe or just at least looks good with whatever he wears, and vice versa, because you want to look good together, because they'll be obviously you'll be together a lot of the time, so you want to make sure that your clothing matches his clothing. If he's the type of guy that likes to wear suits, you're wearing a nice gown, a nice dress to match him, is useful. Not, like I said, not going into too much details. You can learn about different types of dresses. Sundresses tend to be popular, in general. But then, of course, there's party dresses. There's dinner dresses. Like if you go on a date, you might have a couple of dresses specifically for when you go on a date with your husband. Party dresses for when you go to events or birthday parties or whatever. Like I said, sundresses for like more for like when you're traveling or you're around the house or in general, like things of that nature. But like I said, no single lady dresses, right? Dresses got to be the type that a woman who has a man would wear. So moving on to the next one, casual clothing. That varies, of course, when it comes to casual clothing. That's where you get to, do you, right? Express yourself however way you want, because it's casual clothing. There'll be times where you might need to be casual, but still, being able to have casual clothing that matches your man's casual clothing, will make sense. Because understand, he has to have certain outfits for certain things. Like he can't be wearing baggy jeans all the time, right? He has to wear suits sometimes. He has to wear swim trunks sometimes. Like, clothes matter for a certain situation. You gotta consider the idea of a uniform. Casual clothing, yeah, that's for everyday things, for here and there. When you're just trying to blend in with the crowd as a wearer, and you're not trying to stand out. That's another thing about blending in. If you go somewhere where everybody's where there's a lot of women wearing dresses, it don't make sense for you to go there wearing jeans on purpose. Blend in, right? Wear a dress like every other woman that's at that situation wearing a dress. You know what I mean? Just common sense. So casual clothing, jeans, sweats, whatever is useful, whatever makes life easy. Obviously, it's more about being comfortable. That's why it's casual. It's more about being comfortable. Obviously, you don't want it to be too revealing, right? You could have casual clothing for staying at home and casual clothing for traveling. You, as a wife, you don't want to draw a lot of male attention that ain't your husband's. So you obviously want to dress a little bit more when you're dressing casual, especially if you're traveling alone. If you're not traveling with your man, right, then you want to dress down, put on more clothing, as it were, right? Dress down, as it were. I'm saying it wrong. You get the point. Show less skin if you're by yourself. If you're with your man and he's and he likes you showing some skin, then show some skin, right? Because you're with him, right? The attention that you get will also be the attention he gets, right? And vice versa. So there's that. But on average, you want to keep, you don't want to, if you're traveling alone, you don't want to look like you are alone, as in like you don't have a man. You want it to make it look like you obviously have a man. So that's why what you wear does matter. If you dress like a single lady, right, like a single woman, you'll be treated like a single woman, even though you're not single, right, because you're a wife. Which is why it's important how you dress, especially if you're a wife. If you're single, then, you're going to dress like you're single, obviously. But when you're not single, you need to dress as if you're not single. And then, this is just about being a wife, but obviously, there's a certain type of clothing for mothers and stuff like that, but, we'll get into that some other time. Right now, this is just being a wife. We're assuming you have no kids, right? In this moment, you're just a wife. So, with your casual clothing, you want to make sure that your clothing, says, I'm not single, right? So that's important. So let's move along. Not much to say about casual clothing. Lingerie, gotta spice things up from time to time. just being naked is not enough, you know. Keep your husband happy. Sometimes you gotta stimulate his mind. That's the main thing. You know, men are visual, so you need to trick our brains, right? Trick our eyes, as it were, right? Trick our eyes. So that's why, you know, hiding certain aspects of your physical form, revealing certain aspects of your physical form, you know, these types of things have an effect, right? And that's the point. You're trying to create the effect, you know. It's important for you to understand, because most women nowadays have a problem with the idea of someone else having a thought, thinking about them in a certain way. Most women nowadays think that they determine what's sexy and what's not sexy. And when they are or are not sexy, it does not work that way. The people who see you, they're the ones who determine if you're sexy or not, because it's about how looking at you makes them feel. It's not about how you feel. Because one, you will always lie to yourself anyway. You will always make yourself feel some type of way. If you want to be happy, you will lie to yourself to make yourself happy. There's plenty of women that have done that thing. I've seen it before, where they'll dress a certain way because it's like, this makes me feel happy, blah, blah, this makes me feel sexy, this, that, and third, but it's like, but it's not actually sexy. You're trying to trick yourself into being happy, but that's the problem. It's a trick. You're lying to yourself, and you're happy that you're lying to yourself. You're enjoying the fact that you are lying to yourself. Why? Why not do the real thing? Why not actually be sexy, right? As it were, like, why not actually do things that will end up you actually being sexy to a point where someone else will say? Because that's the thing. Other people have to label you as such for you to be that thing. You know, you could think you're a good person, but everybody else has to agree. If everybody else doesn't agree and they're like, nah, you're not a good person, there's a high probability you're not actually a good person. Because the idea of being a good person is how you are with other people, not how you are with yourself. So in this generation, this whole self-love thing, and no one else has to judge me, no one else has to love me, no one else has to find me attractive, and this, that, and the third, and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, these are all lies. That's unfortunate. These are all things to try to justify the fact that you're trying to be lazy, right? You're trying not to do something. So you're trying to justify, instead of accepting the fact that you are to blame why someone doesn't find you attractive, you're trying to blame them for not finding you attractive. It's like, no, they have the right to not find you attractive or to find you attractive. That is up to them. That is their right as an individual human being to like you or dislike you. But if you want them to like you, you should do what it takes to have them like you. If you really care about them liking you. If you don't care about them liking you, then you don't care and just move along, right? The problem is trying to point at them and be like, you're wrong for liking me looking a certain type of way, or you're wrong for not liking me looking a certain type of way. And it's like, no, they have the right to like or dislike whatever they like or dislike about you, right? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, not in the person who's being beholden by these eyes, right? So if I look at you and I say you're sexy, then you're sexy. If you don't think you're sexy, you don't feel sexy, well, that's irrelevant. That's on you, right? That doesn't matter. How you feel and what you think has nothing to do with how I feel and how I think. So that's the thing. People got to stop trying to make it seem like they have to feel the same way someone else feels in order for it to make sense. Like, I gotta feel sexy for somebody else to find me sexy. No, I can find you sexy while you think you're disgusting. You can find me sexy while I think I'm disgusting. You know what I mean? Like, how I feel is irrelevant to how you feel. How I feel does not affect how you feel, and vice versa. That's the point. Your feelings are your feelings, mine are mine. So if I feel that you're sexy, then you're sexy. That's it. Don't try to tell me how I'm supposed to feel. So, lingerie, like I said, Be creative, find out what turns your man or husband on, what makes him happy, and ain't nothing wrong with having some fun experimenting and figuring out, what works and what doesn't work to get him into the mood. So let's move on. That's pretty simple to understand. Interesting enough, costumes is not too different from lingerie. It's pretty much relatively the same concept. It's the visual thing. You're trying to make me think a certain type of thing. So definitely like the schoolgirl outfits, cheerleader outfits, French maid outfits, even outfits that make you look like a superhero or like a anime character or something, things of that nature. If you know what I like, then picking costumes, outfits that allow you to look a lot like things that I like, well, obviously it's gonna make me like you more, right? That's a good idea. You should always try to strive to make sure your man, your husband, loves looking at you, loves to think about you. You always want to be on his mind, always want to be in his view, right? You don't want his eyes and mind wandering off and looking elsewhere, right? Common sense, right? That's the thing. It's important for you to make sure that you are the center of his attention. If you're not the center of his attention, it's because you're not putting in the right effort. You're being lazy. And that's the thing. Being a wife is essentially a job. You can't be lazy, right? You want him to not be lazy when it comes to making money. You can't be lazy when it comes to making him happy, right? By your existence, by you walking around him, right? You talking to him. Everything you do and say, your whole existence, right? As a wife is, I'm here, look at me, look what I'm doing, look what I'm saying. It's supposed to affect him, trigger him every moment, right? Where he's like, oh my God, my wife is awesome. My wife is so cool. Oh my God, she is so caring, and this, that, and third. Man, she looks so good. Man, she looks so cute today, and this, that, and third. Like, you want him to have you in his mind a lot. Because that would inspire him, that would motivate him, even saying things, like I said, not just the way you look, but also the way you act, the way you talk, saying encouraging things from time to time, pointing out that he did something awesome, he did something that you were impressed that he did, ego boosting, right? Boost his ego so that way, he keeps being motivated. Because guys can get bored, lazy after a while, tired, complacent, and so on and so forth. Which is where the costumes come into play, where, one day he walks in the house, he's minding his own business, right? It's like, another day, different, same shit, different day, and suddenly you come out in a schoolgirl outfit, like, oh, whoa, this is different, you know what I mean? Surprise, yeah, that's a good thing, something different. And of course, it's not just for, these outfits are not just for looking, they also should have function, if you know what I mean. There's a lot you should be able to do in these outfits. So you can figure that part out. Moving on. Fitness clothing. Stuff like yoga pants and sports bras, things of that nature. Whatever is comfortable, whatever makes it easy for you to work out, stay in shape. A large majority of your day should be health, should be fitness based, right? You should be pretty active. Being physically fit is not just for looking good, but it also has a function, obviously. Because you have strength and energy to actually do the things you want to do for, to have fun, but also be able to do things that is helpful and beneficial, like cleaning, organizing things, running errands, being able to, walk around, not be tired. You don't want to spend, every day, you don't want to spend multiple hours in a day sitting on your ass, right? Wasting wasting your life, right? Just sitting around doing nothing. You should want to do stuff. You should have stuff to do. So let's say you did everything you need to do, cook, clean, blah, 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 all that good stuff, right? And you're bored and not much to do. All right, well, exercise, right? That gives you something to do, exercise. That way you'll have exercise, energy and strength for other things. If you have kids, obviously you want physical strength, you want to be strong, especially if you have sons. Boys tend to be rough and they are strong, so you need to make sure you're a strong woman. Not say you're a strong woman, but actually be a strong woman and be able to, lift your kids up, carrying them for long periods of time if you're carrying them, be able to do certain things in case, let's say you have to fix something, or you have to assemble something, being able to assemble stuff, being able to use tools is useful and so forth. So the thing is you should have a certain level of strength. You don't have to be the Incredible Hulk, right? But you should be strong, right? Men are stronger than women, yes, but doesn't mean women can't be strong. It's just the comparison to a man is pointless. You're comparing apples to an orange, right? We're different, but you have your own strength. So make sure you have your own strength and you're strong to be able to do the things you need to do. Plus strength, obviously comes in handy for self-defense, among other things. Being fit is important, for your own health. Don't you want to live a long, happy life? Then you might want to be in good shape for that. Many other reasons why you should be in shape, but like I said, make sure that you have fitness clothing, because if you don't have clothes specifically for working out, there's a high probability you don't work out, and obviously that could be a problem, especially if you start having kids and stuff like that. So it's important to have fitness clothing and to exercise for your own benefits as well as for the other benefits you have for being in shape. All right, moving on to the next thing. The last 5 things, it's more about mental. Like I said, it's not enough to look like a wife. You also have to be able to act like a wife. A lot of times it's not always what you do. It's just the fact that you're doing something tends to be just as important as your ability to do it, right? For example, you might not be good at solving math problems, right? You might not be good at math, let's say, but your willingness to try to help with a math problem, your willingness to try to find a mathematical solution to a mathematical problem, being helpful, right? That is a good thing. That's a sign of being a wife, right? Is your willingness to try to help where with something like that. For example, if your man is carrying a whole bunch of stuff and then you see there's some small items that also need to be carried, then carrying those small items is being helpful. This is not a complicated concept, the idea of being helpful. But ironically, some women nowadays do have a problem with that. They're lazy. Just say it that way. They're lazy. I know I have a habit that when I see somebody doing something, I tend to want to help them. Especially if they're a woman, I tend to want to help them even more. If they're a guy, I'm like, all right, he should be able to handle this. But if it looks like it's too much, or or just seems like, I shouldn't just let him do all this by himself, I bet he would really appreciate some help, so then I will go help him, right? So the same goes for a woman. A woman should try to be helpful, try to make the idea of being helpful, obviously, is just helping somebody make something easier. You know what I mean? I've been in scenarios where women literally try to make something I was doing harder. And it's like, that's not helpful. That's not helping me. You want me to move this couch, but you're lying down on the couch at the same time. You're adding extra weight and making it more difficult. Why don't you get off the couch so I can move it? You know, make it easy for myself. Another thing that can help make it easy is, why don't you help me move the couch? So get off the couch, help me move the couch, and then you can get back on the couch. So I've had that happen a couple of times, where somebody was literally on top of the item they wanted me to move. I'm like, yeah, this is awkward. You want me to move something, but you're literally on top of that something that you want me to move. You're not helping me by doing that. And then the funny thing is, they're the ones asking me for the help. They're the ones asking me to do it. I'm like, all right, I'm willing to help you, but look how ironically you're not helping me. You're still on top of the item you want me to move. Like, I'm willing to help you, but at least make it easy for me to help you. Don't make it hard. So there's that. Then we have, besides, obviously being helpful and, trying to assist people in certain things, caring, looking out for others, mental and physical health, paying attention is important. I've noticed this a lot, that I see women in my life tend to overlook certain things, certain details. There's certain things that I've noticed. I'll say it this way. I've noticed certain things about, their kids. Like, some of these females have kids, right? And I noticed that their kids have a certain type of behavior that I'm very familiar with. And I started to notice certain things. I'm like, yeah, there's something going on here. And I noticed ain't no one else paying attention. When I mean no one else, nobody of the female gender is noticing these things, but I'm noticing it. So then I pointed out, like, I noticed this, I noticed that, and later on it does get revealed that yes, there was an issue, whether the person has poor eyesight, which was the issue, or the person's autistic is the issue, or the person just have ADD or something similar to that, those, or they're dyslexic, so forth, right? Because the thing is, humans aren't perfect, and this day and age, humans are less perfect than they used to be, for a couple factors. One, there is the genetic aspect. There's more and more humans being born with mental issues, physical health issues, like asthma, or they have they end up getting diabetes or something. You get the idea. Like, they tend to have some issue that pops up that you have to take into account. And then there's so those are all the physical stuff. Then there's the mental health issues that can be either something because their environment, made them think a certain type of way, or they, there's something wrong with or something not normal, as it were, something not normal with their mind, so they act a certain way, they think a certain way, they think differently than the way you expect them to, so that becomes a problem. There's some scenarios where the situation is that like, I'll use children for example. The situation is the child is actually smarter than you would think they are. You look at them and go, oh, they're a child, they don't know a lot, but in reality they're actually smarter. And sometimes it's obviously the reverse. You would think that the child is smart, but the child is not that smart. You know what I mean? That can happen. But that's why it's important to pay attention, showing that you care. Paying attention is part of that. Paying attention to how somebody behaves. If somebody looks sad all the time, there's a reason for it. Somebody looks scared all the time, there's a reason for it. And the list goes on and on. So, caring about those around you. I make a habit that I pay attention. When there's human beings around me, I pay attention, make sure that everybody's good. If everybody's smiling, everybody's happy, then everything is good. But if I'm seeing half of the people looking sad and the other half of the people looking like they're scared, something's wrong. I'm not going to be like, oh, everything's A-okay. No, something's wrong. You got people here sad and people over there, looking scared, like, what's going on? And then you find out that, like, oh, there's some shooting or something really bad happened or something. Like, oh, shit. That explains why everybody, half of the people are sad and half of the people are scared. Because something bad happened that I was unaware of. Stuff like that. And that's caring, You want to make sure that the people around you are good. You want to make sure your husband's good. You want to make sure your kid's good, Your husband might feel fine, right? But he might not look fine. What I mean is, he might look like he's really, really sick, but he doesn't even realize that he looks really sick because he doesn't notice it. But you can see him, you can notice it, and maybe you know what it is. Maybe you know what's going on, why he looks sick, right? Why he looks really, really pale for some reason, but he feels fine. When you ask him how he feels, and he tells you he feels fine, but you can clearly physically see that there's something wrong. See, that's caring. You cared enough to pay attention to notice that. Even though your husband is telling you, oh, I'm fine, I feel great, you know that there's something actually wrong. And you will take the proper steps to make sure he is taken care of, right? And vice versa. He should do the same for you, of course. I'm just saying that make sure you do that, because I notice a lot of women tend to ignore their environment, tend to ignore how people are around them, because they're more concerned about how they feel and how life makes them feel and their feelings. They don't even notice other people's feelings. This is why you get scenarios where there's people on the internet talking about, like, oh man, women act like men don't have feelings and this and that. Men have feelings too, and this and that, all this extra stuff about feelings all the time. It's like, yes, men have feelings. We do. Duh, right? We have feelings, but most of us are better at controlling it, like we should be controlling it. But some of us are not as good as controlling it. And that's where it's important to pay attention, show that you care by paying attention to your husband and your kids, of course, right? And anybody else's, physical health, mental health. But sometimes it could literally just be physical health issues. Like they physically have, they're unhappy because they're overweight, and they don't think that being overweight is the reason they're unhappy. They just feel unhappy. But you might actually realize they're actually unhappy because they're, overweight or something. They have some physical health issues that can have an effect on them, right? So you paying attention, noticing these things allows you to, be able to react and do something to help, which obviously is a good thing. And that shows that you care. So the next thing is understanding, right? Being able to understand things, be able to not only understand words and, what somebody, the instructions somebody gives you, but also be able to just even understand body language. That's also important. Understanding when someone is sick, but they're trying to pretend they're not, that's important. If somebody feels sad, your ability to tell that they feel sad, and your understanding of what makes them happy, your willingness to do those things to make them happy, those are important factors. If you have a husband, you want him to be happy, right? Just like you want him to make sure, to make you happy, right? You need to make sure you make him happy, and vice versa. Now, ultimately, it's up to us as individuals to make ourselves happy, right? We shouldn't allow ourselves to be unhappy, but if we end up in a situation where we are unhappy, it is nice to know that somebody else cares about us enough to try to make sure we stay happy, that they'll do stuff to make us happy, and vice versa. Ultimately, we're responsible for our own happiness. A lot of people on the internet do be saying that, like, make sure you make yourself happy, don't, The world's not supposed to make you happy. You're supposed to make yourself happy. It's like, that is true to a certain degree, but we are also supposed to make each other happy. You're supposed to put that effort. Let's not, do this whole self-love bullshit and keep ourselves from each other. We need each other more than we want to believe. We're not robots, so we can't not need each other. We're not robots. We're literally designed to be with each other. Men and women are designed to be with each other. We literally exist to be with each other. So this whole bullshit of like, no, I love myself, I don't need no one else to love me. Bullshit. That's not why you exist. You do not exist to love yourself. You exist to be loved by others and to love others. So like I said, understanding. Very important to understand the person you're with. Language, right? If you're with somebody of a different race that speaks a different language, different culture, understanding their different cultures, that's important, especially if you want to incorporate their culture into the relationship along with your culture. So it's important for you to be able to make sure they understand your culture and you understand their culture and vice versa, right? Sometimes, I was in one relationship where I would use certain words that I use a lot, and most of my friends and family, they understand what those words mean. I mean, it's not hard to understand the words, but I've been with someone that had a different definition of some of these words, and they reacted based off of those different definitions. And I can't remember the words at the moment I think I could remember one as an example. Like the idea of me saying, I don't go to clubs or something, or I don't typically go to clubs or something like that. I don't do clubs, something like that. Not that I will never go to a club, it's that I don't do clubs. Implying or blatantly saying that I just don't typically go to clubs. I don't, clubs is not my thing. It's not something I'm known for doing, but not that I would never go to a club. See, if I mean, I would never go to a club, a nightclub or something like that, then I would just blatantly say, I would never go to a nightclub. I hate nightclubs, and just leave the conversation at that. I wouldn't say, I don't really do clubs like that. Me saying I don't really do clubs does not mean that I would never go to one. I'm just saying I don't do it, as in it's not normal for me to go to a club. Not that I won't give it a try, but it's just that I don't typically do it. But interesting enough, in the relationship I'm referring to, she took it as I would never go to a club, even though I never said I would never go. I just said I don't do clubs, as in I don't typically go to clubs. That's not something that's normal for me, which means it's going to be something out of my comfort zone. It's going to be something new for me to do, something new for me to experience, right? Not saying that I wouldn't do it. That's the point. I didn't say I wouldn't do it and I don't want to do it. I just said I don't do it, right? As in I don't do it on my own. So if I did go to a club, it would be because other people, convinced me to do it, asked me to do it, invited me to do it, right? It's something different than I'm used to. That's all. Just like I said, I don't typically travel to Japan. Doesn't mean I'll never go to Japan. It's just I typically don't travel to Japan. Or I just typically don't travel. Right? If I say I typically don't travel, or I don't, drink alcohol often, doesn't mean I'll never drink alcohol, right? As an example. It's just that I don't drink it as often, right? And that's the thing. It's not, I don't think it's hard to understand that. I'm being very specific that I don't typically do something, not that I'll never do something. But my significant other just kept looking at, always had the negative view of everything I said, always wanted to hear what I say as a absolute yes or no, even though I was giving a maybe or a yes, but I'm not sure. Like, my answers a lot of times were more leaning towards yes, but not sure if I'm gonna do it, or maybe I'll do it. So it was not definitely no, and it definitely wasn't always a yes. So that's the thing, it's like I either give you a yes answer or no answer blatantly, depending on how strongly I feel about something. But if I'm not too, 100% sure of yes or no for a certain situation, then that's where the whole, I don't, typically do this, or I'm not really a fan of clubs. Not that I wouldn't go to a club, I'm just not a fan. So don't expect me to be extremely happy to go to a club. I will go just to go because people want me to go with them. So I'll go, to join in, but don't expect me to be super thrilled. I've actually been in some scenarios where some people, wanted to go somewhere. They invited me to go, and they were very surprised that I wasn't extremely thrilled to be there, that I behaved in a way, and it wasn't like really blatant. I was just quiet and just, not talking. I was just there. I was quiet and I was there. And me being quiet and being there, or just mainly me being quiet, of course, was the problem. They saw it as like, there was a problem. Why am I not extremely happy being there? Well, the reality is, of course, I'm not happy being there because I didn't want to come here. I came here to be nice. I came here because y'all invited me. So I'm just tagging along. For y'all to expect me to be extremely happy, doesn't make sense, because I never implied that I really wanted to come here. I never blatantly said it. I never gave a hint that I was going to be extremely happy doing this. It's just that when I was asked to come along, or let me rephrase that, not even asked, I was invited. I was told to come. That y'all gonna come by, drive, and pick me up and take me with y'all. Y'all, that's the thing. Y'all decided for me to go with y'all. And I had no problem tagging along. But that's all I was doing, was tagging along. I wasn't planning to do this. So don't expect too much from it. That's the thing. Some people just expect more than they should. That's why it's important to understand people. If people spend more time trying to understand me, they will understand that I would do things that I don't like to do just because I'm being nice, right? I'm trying to, if somebody wants me to, come to the birthday party that I don't really, hang out with like that, or I've never been to one of their birthday parties, but they invite me to one of them, I'm like, sure, I'll come through because you invited me. But doesn't mean I plan to, I'm thrilled to, or anything. Don't expect those things. Not saying that I couldn't be happy or thrilled that I was invited. Just saying don't expect it. Because that's just, I never gave you the hint or blatantly say that I was thrilled to be invited. That I was so happy to be invited. So don't expect something if I never expressed it in the first place. That's all I'm saying. So it's important to understand other people. So the other thing about, so the next thing is leadership. Now, granted, your husband, would make a lot of decisions. You're following his lead, trusting his leadership, trusting that he knows what he's doing. But there'll be times he, might come up short, might not know how to handle a certain situation. And if you're capable of helping him with the situation, then obviously help him. Be helpful, right? So stuff like that is important. But there might be times where he might be in a situation where he can't lead. God forbid something happens to him. But if something was to happen to him where he can't lead, you need to be able to lead in his place, right? Be able to lead the way he would lead, right? Be able to think the way he thinks. And that's where understanding comes in. That's where paying attention comes in. Because if your husband, typically handles certain situations in a specific way, you need to do the same thing, right? He's the president, you're his vice president, right? So whenever he's incapable of making decisions the way he normally makes decisions, then you have to pick up the slack and make those decisions for him, right? Make those decisions the same way he would. So that's why it's important to understand your husband, and vice versa. He should understand you, know what you like and your dislikes, know, what you would or would not do in certain situations, how you would react to certain things, and vice versa. Same goes for him. You should know what makes him happy, what makes him sad, right? Makes him mad and stuff like that. Understanding feelings. The funny thing is, women of the past knew this, understood this, because women are mostly emotional, right? So they back in the day, they were the ones who were really good at noticing when someone is sad, when someone is mad, and they knew how to tame the beast, as it were, calm the Hulk, as it were. So you need to know what makes your husband happy, sad, and so forth and so forth. That way you can say things, do things that will trigger these emotions. Obviously, for his benefit. Don't find out what makes him mad and then use it to make him mad, right? That's not right. That's that's a very bad thing to do, a very abusive thing to do, to constantly trigger, like, oh man, he hates it when I poke him, so I'm gonna poke him over and over again, making him mad. Like, no, don't do that. And the final thing, like I said, leadership is important. Having the skills, the capability to lead is important. In case your husband can't lead, you got to be able to lead. Then romantic, aka being sexy, right? The ability to keep your man happy, keep him, to make sure he feels loved. If you want your husband's attention, you gotta make sure you get his attention. Don't just sit around waiting for him to pay attention to you. You better make sure he gives you the attention. You have to, I'm gonna say, you have to earn it. You have to earn your husband's attention. He's gonna, have a lot on his mind, and you need to be able to distract him from those thoughts, those other distractions when the time comes. I'm not saying distract him all the time. He has to do stuff, right? You gotta make money, this, that, and third. But if you see that he's distracted and he's not too happy with the distraction, then the right thing to do will be to try to get him to get his mind off of that distraction that is making him not happy. You want him to be happy. You want him to deal with whatever he's dealing with in a positive way. This is something that's always important, that I always see people, women always arguing that emotions is not a weakness, blah, 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 and all that nonsense. Men need to express their feelings and so forth and so forth. Here's something you have to understand. I've repeated this many times before. Humans have more negative emotions than they have positive emotions, right? When you think of positive emotions, you think of happiness, love, I could say arousal, getting horny or something like that. These are good feelings. Happiness, love. What else? Very few happy words, right, to describe the idea of happy feelings. But we have, fear, sadness, doubt. Did I say fear already? Depression, stress, anxiety, and the list goes on and on, right? I could come up with so many different things that have to do with negative feelings, right? So we have way more negative feelings than we have positive feelings. So that's why it's very important to control your feelings, because more often than not, whatever feelings you're feeling, they're more likely negative, because you have more negative feelings than happy feelings. So that's why it's important to control your feelings. You always want to lean towards your happy feelings more. Since you have less happy feelings, you want to stay there as much as possible. You don't want to drift over to your negative feelings, because there's so many of them, and you experience them all. You experience sadness, and then fear, and then drought. Dread. I meant to say dread. Depression, and so forth and so forth, right? That's the thing. You don't want all that. Fear leads to hate. Hate leads to anger. Anger leads to, anger is another word. See, that's a negative feeling, angry. You don't want a man to feel angry, because what does anger lead? Anger leads to violence, right? So angry is a bad feeling, not a good feeling. So the whole idea of, express your feelings, no, don't express them. Suppress them. Control them. There's such thing about, if you suppress your feelings, you need to know how to release your feelings, or express them in a positive way. A punching bag is a really good way to release your anger. You don't want to punch your wife, you rather punch a punching bag, right? So men need to learn to control their emotions. Same as women. But like I was saying, there's more negative feelings than there are happy feelings. So it's very important to always do things that make sure everybody is always on their happy feelings. Make sure your kids are happy. Make sure your husband's happy. Make sure you're happy. If you're not happy, you need to figure out how to correct that. It's your job as a wife, as a woman in general, to always make sure that the feelings you have, the feelings of the people around you, are always leaning towards good feelings, not negative. That's why we have a problem in society right now, women, disrespecting men, saying things to hurt men's feelings. That's not a good idea. Don't trigger his negative emotions. If the guy's not your type, that is fine. You are allowed to like and dislike what you like and dislike. But don't hurt another human being's feelings, especially a man's feelings, by blatantly be like, oh, you're ugly, you're not my type, oh, you're short, this, that, that, saying all these things to deliberately hurt their feelings. Like I said, humans have more negative feelings than they have happy feelings. And negative feelings, especially when it comes to a man, it applies to women too. Women, when they have negative feelings, they get physical when they have negative feelings. Men get physical when they have negative feelings. Not a good idea to trigger a man's negative feelings, right? So, especially if you're a woman, you might not want to trigger a man's negative feelings. Your best weapon, right? Your best self-defense when dealing with a man is being nice, is making him feel good. You want him to be happy. Think of it like every man is the Incredible Hulk. Stop making them angry. You won't like them when they're angry. It's just that simple. When a man gets violent, it's because he was pushed to violence. Men by default are not violent. We have the capacity for violence, yes, but so does women. But it takes a lot to push us into violence. So stop pushing us into violence, is what I'm saying. Like I said, humans, men and women, have more negative feelings than they have positive, which means you need to focus on positive feelings. Men should do that, women should do that, obviously. But since I'm speaking to women, understand you need to smile. Smiling makes men happy. Say things in a nice, positive way. Don't raise your voice. Don't sound like you're angry, sound like you're concerned, sound like you're a little sad that something's happening, something bad happened, and you wish it wasn't. That is kryptonite for most guys. If you act like us leaving the toilet seat up is us not loving you. I know it sounds manipulative, but the thing is, sometimes guys manipulate themselves. If you make us feel bad about leaving the toilet seat up, trust me, we will try not to leave it up. But if you're yelling and screaming at us and talking down to us like we're a 5-year-old child, again, like I said, think of us like the Hulk. Don't make us angry, because you won't like us when we're angry. Common sense. And that's the end of the podcast.